Is Shin Megami Tensei V good? Well, let's talk about it. During 2022, I decided to stream my first ever Shin Megami Tensei game, Shin Megami Tensei III HD Remaster, over at twitch.tv/Metallic Aerox. I had, for the most part, a great time with it. I enjoyed the larger-than-life story aspect and focusing more on governing principles of life versus your average character trying to accomplish their goals. I liked it enough to actually review it and its in glory and the complete Shin Megami Tensei bullshit. Link in the description for that review. So between the time from Shin Megami Tensei 3 to 5 and all the gameplay changes, is it better? Is it worse? Actually, it's quite garbage. It reminds me too much of Persona. I can't believe they just completely ripped off Persona.
Boom. Roasted.
Just kidding. Don't go. Just wanted to get your attention. I'm not going to compare the two games in that regard. Both are by Atlas and both great JRPG games in their own right. However, they do have a focus on what they want to bring out, so I'm going to be sticking with just the Shin Megami Tensei aspect. The story of SMT 5 is rather simple, but goes deeper if you invest the time and the effort into it. The protagonist, let's call him Jerry, along with his high school friends, decide to go through town, and then an earthquake so powerful on the Richter scale, it transports them to Dot, which is an alternate version of Tokyo that features an ongoing war between angels and demons. During the search for his friends, he is surrounded by demons and decides to attempt to take his life, but then all of a sudden, the heavens part the clouds and the light shoots down. When the smoke clears, we meet the Chad Aogami. Together, the power of anime and a mutual desire to further the plot, they fusion high into a being called the Nahabino, which is basically a deity that is destined for greatness. Over the course of finding their way home, they encounter Numa, along with the human named Shoho Yakumo. After arriving back, we learn that the current war and the conflict involving the other factions, and ultimately how it's up to the Nahabino, probably you, to take the throne of God and change the world in your image, which is affiliated with one of the various factions in the world or even your ideas. You do you. To me, this always stands out in a positive light for the Shin Megami Tensei games. It helps distinguish identity that conveys a deeper level of thinking and how these ideas apply to themselves in our own world. Some factions believe in the strength leads the way forward. Some believe in the idea of restoring the old gods and have them rule, like why fix what's not broken. It's an interesting form of storytelling that works well with the franchise. Shin Megami Tensei V has a bit more exploration than its predecessor with a more focus on platforming throughout the world. The map also introduces vertical platforming this time around. Due to this, there will be times where going from your current location to the location on the next point on your map of the interest for the main quest may not be so straightforward, due to the path being blocked. It casts a sense of realism in a broken world, which being blocked, you have to keep your mind open and explore enough to find the correct path. So be sure to collect all the goodies in the world, such as demon essences, which could be used to adjust the resistance of Jerry, pass on skills to either Jerry or other demons, or even Makitsui to heal your party, restore some of your MP, or even get gold. You can even find these creatures known as Meatmen, which, even in gathered, return to Gustav, who resides in the Cadaverse Hollow. Provides you not only glory, which can be used to further increase your passive skills and buffs, but also some impressive items ranging from combat items, healing items, and demon essences. While exploring the world around you, you may come across a transparent plant-like creature known as abscesses. Consider these somewhat little checks in power since you have to face off stronger than normal demons within this area. However, upon defeating them, not only does it further increase the visibility of the map, but allows you to unlock more abilities to unlock the Nahabino using the glory system, which helps kill two birds with one stone. Considering this game is more exploration based comparing to Shin Megami Tensei 3, it's a great incentive, but of course you also can't ignore the fact that making the character stronger either is just as important. It also can help increase demon slots, skill slots, some further passive abilities, and become more pro-efficient in your desired build, which I really do like in this game. Similar to how the Shin Megami Tensei 3, you need to focus your time and effort into creating a specific type of main character akin to your playstyle. This time I went with the physical build again, trying to max out on multiple attacks with strength buffs, such as physical Rama. How you generally build your team outside of your own character? Well, let's talk about that. The bulk of your team building is fusing demons, generally by talking to them during combats and the use of persuasion to join you. Yes, it is as it sounds. As you talk to the demon, they ask you for some, you give them some stuff. They spit it in your face about 50% of the time, attack you, and then or leave. Rinse and repeat, but eventually you will get a new addition to your team. Once you have 2 demons, you can fuse them into a new one. With the fusion result, you can then add new skills from the original 2 to the new demon result, along with what the demon natively learns upon creation. This is a very crucial step because it allows you to pass on skills that work with the strengths of the offspring. For example, there is a creature you can unlock through a special fusion side quest called Idun. She has a moderate HP heal along with increase your party's attack, defense, and evasion by 1 stage. This is huge for Shin Megami Tensei games. Buffs and debuffs and mass healing is a way of life. However, you can actually fuse a few separate demons first and allow one creature to pass on a skill called Boon Boost, which will allow you to eventually pass it on to Idun, who normally doesn't learn the skill, which lengthens the duration of the effects of her skill buffs from her Golden Apple spell. Luckily, the game features a compendium system that you can summon back at a price, so you don't have to worry about constantly recruiting the wild of the demons. Thank God! The bulk of the combat is very similar to a predecessor in the Persona franchise as well, where you generally have 1 action per party member, and if you strike a foe's weakness once, then you get a half-turn icon, which allows you to continue moving up to the points where you run out. This is great. It helps incentivize Zine's diverse team to cover all weaknesses to get the most turns as possible. And of course, to maximize your damage using the buffs and debuffs with recovery if needed. And of course, you can also use items as well for healing and damage. It's a classic JRPG turn-based combat that shines bright and will never disappoint. I want to take a moment to really appreciate how much things have improved over the course of time with this franchise. I have yet to play Shin Megami Tensei IV and Shin Megami Tensei IV Apocalypse yet, but between 3 and 5, there are plenty of differences that are welcome with the quality of life improvements that create a much more enjoyable experience. For one, side quests are significantly more streamlined compared to SMT 3. SMT 5 has a great list-like system that explains what the quest is, what it isn't for you, and a general idea of where to go, who issued it to you, and where to go. While Shin Megami Tensei 3, well, you got YouTube. Having to go through less hoops is always appreciated. Using fewer outside resources to complete the game is always a win in my book. I really wish I could say that for the Kelpas in Shin Megami Tensei 3. Yeah, never do that again. Very early in the game, you'll unlock the ability to instantly warp back to the last lane line crossing. This is basically this game's version of the terminals from SMT 3, which is huge. Shin Megami Tensei 3, like other JRPG games, are a resource management, mainly your MP. So having a reliable way to get to a safe location without having to using a certain item in your bag is a nice addition. Just having automatically return to your last lane line just saves you so much time, headache, and is a much more safer approach. Also, shout out to the ley lines, also being basically its own mall with the stores. Also, by far, my favorite change is no more random encounters. I can't tell you how looking back is truly great. With SMT3, the random encounter rate was ridiculous. I've heard worse from the Digital Devil Saga, but still, I even had to search several ways to lower the random encounter rate in Shin Megami Tensei 3 because it just took up so much time. With SMT5, all the demons on screen, plus are able to break the sound barrier by dashing into them. You also have so much more way of controlling when you enter combat, for the most part being of your choice. The sound design for the game, no shock, holds up well. However, what were some of the things I didn't find too enjoyable? Well, the game is essentially built around the combat. The vast majority of your time in this game will be fusing, fighting, and turn-based combat. This game has very little to no deviation from this from doing a few side quests here and there, but ultimately are usually resolved by fighting other demons. If you love JRPG turn-based like myself, I'm thinking this is going to be a great fit 100%. However, if you need a bit more to your gameplay with more things you can do, along with a more traditional way of telling a story, I'd maybe recommend to check out the used-to-be spin-off series Persona. Don't get me wrong, for the most part, I enjoy the story here, but I felt myself not being as invested into the overall story as I have been in the past JRPGs under my belt. Even in Shin Megami Tensei 3 had more memorable moments for me there. My biggest complaint with the game is actually an entire single area. The third area. This area, oh my god, it's very different. Going back to the point of the game that introduces more vertical platforming, this area pushes it to 11. The entire gimmick is the use of fans. You need to use fans to get around the entire map, which involves some timing movements, otherwise you'll need to get patched back and start back to square one. Overall, this wasn't so bad, but the game doesn't give much aspect of where to go in certain areas when the rises and the drops. I actually had to use YouTube to get one through of the last parts due to you have to move between another fan at the very top of the peak to ensure you have enough time to get hit by the vertical one adjacent to it in order to get pushed onto a ledge to progress. It's a Shin Megami Tensei game. It's more or less known for certain things to not be explained, but with the area of itself being laid out like this, just left a bad taste in my mouth. It was easily the worst part playing this game in my 50-hour journey. Thankfully, it's not a long section by any means. Another thing I wasn't a huge fan of was the fact it felt a bit similar to the overall story for Shin Megami Tensei 3. Like, if I had to compare it to something else, I almost felt like it was like Star Wars Episode 4 to Episode 7. Both are different stories in the same universe, however the story had the plot points that mirrored each other, which makes sense, but to me this just felt too familiar. All in all, Shin Megami Tensei V was a great experience from start to finish, while sticking to what makes a Shin Megami Tensei great, a Shin Megami Tensei game. It does a great job at introducing new concepts from SMT 3 that adds a great take onto the team building aspect while building on the Naho and the world itself in terms of what can be done. With an interesting cast, shocking twists and turns on the story, and the returning opportunity to reborn the world in your heart's desires, it leads the game up to multiple playthroughs to get the full picture. Once you complete the main story, you can start New Game Plus, and you're able to do a reborn playthrough, which your levels and demons to carry you to the new playthrough, which will help you speed up through the story in case you don't have the patience, like me. A great JRPG experience, only with a few sour notes throughout the adventure that were new to the SMT franchise, but this taste doesn't stay in your mouth for too long. Thanks for watching, everyone. This has been a long time coming, but of course, when you only stream a few hours, it takes longer than I would normally like to finish these games. Be sure to check out the SMT 3 video I did a while ago to see my thoughts on that as well. I've also got plenty of other reviews on the channel, and I would love for you to check them out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take it easy. Peace.